But my name's Dan. I'm with Vote Common Good. And I'm going to play a little music, and then we're going to talk and introduce you to some great candidates. And hopefully leave here feeling a little bit better about the state of things. So, how about that? There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will bind our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our hate down, wash their feet. 'Cause when we see our brothers, oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Now I want to try a little something with you. I grew up in church, and this is a good song for a choir behind it. Anybody here grow up in church? Anybody? Okay, a few, yeah. So you know the drill. If you want to join the choir, join with me. It's a real simple thing. You're just going to repeat after me. Free, free, we'll all be free. It goes, we'll be free, 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 we'll all be free. We'll be free, 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 we'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, 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 we'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, 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 we'll all be free. Not bad, yeah. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free.
Hey y'all. Hey, I'm Doug, and Tim and Dan and I are traveling together, and there's a whole bunch of others of us in the Vote Common Good world. And we've been jump-starting little meetings like this all over the country, and every once in a while we get a ceiling that I try to hit my head on. I just about got that one. Sometimes when we come to towns, people say things like, well, you must be going somewhere else. You couldn't have just wanted to come here. Sometimes that's true, but not here. We came here on purpose. We are glad to be here. We're excited to be here. We live all over the place. I live in Minneapolis. Dan lives in West Michigan. Tim, oh, look at this. My watch, I have one of those Apple watches. It says, it looks like you have taken a fall. Are you okay? I then have to say I'm okay, or it will keep beeping, and then it will call someone to come and help me. I did not fall. My watch is more concerned about me than I am. Tim lives in Salem, Oregon. I live in Minneapolis. Dan lives in West Michigan. Rob, who's often with us, lives in Arkansas. Jen, who does our media, lives over here in North Carolina. Britton lives in Tennessee. We have our communications people in Texas. We're one of those groups that just has people that live all over. And sometimes we live in that bus. I don't know if when you came in you noticed there was a bus out there. Did you happen to see it? Yeah, sometimes you can miss that kind of thing if you're just used to coming somewhere. That big bus that says Faith, Hope, and Love on it. We're traveling around the country with faith, hope, and love. Not because we're asking Christians to be candidates. We're not concerned about the religious faith of candidates. Some people in North Carolina, some religious leaders, some people that have had the job I've had, I've been an evangelical pastor my entire adult life, some people from my tradition, they only want people like them to have power in any situation. Some people are really proud to be Christian nationalists and say if you're going to be a civic leader, you have to be Christian the way we think you're Christian. It's not what we say as an organization at all. We want people who are concerned about the common good. And we want Christian voters, those voters who see themselves as Christians, to know that they can vote for candidates who care about the common good. And sometimes, and I don't mean to mansplain this to you because you probably know this better than I do, sometimes people have been told that if you're a Christian of a certain variety, you can only vote for a Republican. We hear it all over the country. We know it's not true. I am one of those kinds of Christians that they're often talking about. I spend my time not only voting for Democratic candidates, but helping them meet voters who, for the first time in their life, those voters care about them. So that's part of the work that we do. But we also know that we want to encourage candidates. And there's 3 candidates that you already know. That's probably why you're here. And we're so proud to meet them. Front rowers. We love it when the candidates sit in the front row. We love these candidates. The best. Who have said to our organization, and we've said back to them, you know, in sort of one of those define the relationship kinds of things, we think you care about the common good and we want to be able to support you. So when we say we're serious about wanting to come here, we weren't just passing through. Now, we did happen to spend the weekend over in Union Grove at a spirituality and arts and music festival. We were there with a couple of thousand other people, and if you hear a little rasp in some of our voices, there may have been a honky-tonk that went till about 2 in the morning out in the middle of a field, but nonetheless, we wanted to come here. And we're really, really glad to come here. We think this county matters. We think these districts matter. We know that these races matter. And we also know that we're sitting in a really intense situation in our country right now. Political violence, gun violence, violence of citizen upon citizen has been something that has been far too often a part of the American story. Last night it was. When a 20-year-old man named Thomas Crooks laid on a roof and tried to assassinate the former president and presidential candidate and killed other people and was killed himself. It's painful. It's wrong. It's hard to know how to think about it. A lot of us were confused. I don't know how you got the news, but I got the news, people saying, was Donald Trump just shot? And all kinds of thoughts went through my head. Some that I'm not very proud of, some that I was confused by, some that I was shocked by. Like, it's a hard time for a lot of us. We're not sure how to think or what to do. We're traveling around in a bus that says a thing, and we're like, are we now exacerbating a problem? Are we helping to solve a problem? Are we in more danger? Are we putting other people in danger? We're living in those perilous times. These also are not the first times. This has been going on over and over. As we've traveled around in this bus since 2018, we have had many an event where the Proud Boys and other white extremist groups have rolled up on our events, have stood in the back with big trucks and guns on their hips and tried to stop our events. This kind of stuff goes on all the time. We've had people that have charged our Capitol on January 6, 2021, using violence to try to get their way. We've had little threats of violence that roll around. Frankly, in our politics, there's too much talk of fight and war and winners and losers, and we all start to feel a little uncomfortable because sometimes it doesn't feel like we're using metaphors. Sometimes it feels like people are preparing to actually act. So in all of that context, we find ourselves in this room with you, and we're so glad to be here. Because we think there's something about faith in each other. We think there's something about hope in a possible future. We think there's something possible about love in our politics. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We have this love in politics pledge that we ask people to make. We don't think love is owned by any group. It's not owned by any religion. Love is the human expression of how we do this together. So on the bus, on this little banner, we say faith, hope, and love, supporting democracy for all, not just for some. There's a lot of talk of taking America back for one group versus the other. There's also an imagination that says maybe we're all in this. Maybe we're all in this together. So can we just take a moment and sit with where we are? Maybe you haven't thought a lot about the moment where we are right now, and maybe you've thought way too much about it. Maybe you want to clear your mind of all that. Maybe some of you want to take a moment to let it settle in, but can we just take a moment? Would that feel okay? Maybe ground yourself however that feels to you. Some people, like me, I leave my hat on. Some people take hats off. Some people put their feet on the ground. Some people lean back. Just find a way to just take a minute. I'll step away from the mic. We'll just let it be quiet in here for a moment and just take in the solemnity that yesterday we crossed a Rubicon again in our civic life in this country. And there's a lot at stake. And there's a lot of paths that we can't take. So let's just take a moment. I mentioned to you that I come from a background of being an evangelical and evangelical pastor. And for lots of years, I've worked in congregations and write books and talk to people and travel around and have that kind of evangelical spirit. A lot of people don't know that there's a little wing of the religion world of progressive evangelicals. Some people don't know those exist. They do. I mean, all of us live in that bus, but it's a small little group. No, there's a movement. There's a movement of people who are progressive in their theology, who are progressive in their politics, who are progressive in their inclusion, and they come from evangelical backgrounds. But there's progressives in every group. And there's conservatives in every group. Religion, it's true. There's progressive Catholics and conservative Catholics. There's progressive Baptists and conservative Baptists. There's Presbyterians and UCCers and all kinds. There's progressive Muslims and conservative Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus, and that's just how we do it. We just get spectrums all the time. So I come from this little tradition. When I'm doing this kind of work, it can feel funny sometimes because it feels like politics makes you pick this one or that one, A or B. It feels really binary. It feels really either or. And there's a lot of us with our progressive sensibilities, we're like, I just get a little wiggy about that, but we know how politics works in a voting democracy. You got to vote for this one or that one or this one, and this one, but not these four. You just are forced to pick. So we have to figure out how do we do it with an open-hearted spirit that doesn't make heroes, villains, and victims, where we always get to be the hero, get to define those who oppose us as the villains, and then speak to the victims, because that doesn't get us very far. And we have to do it in some way where we're not just like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, because it really matters. It really matters who your county commissioner are. You want to talk about your water, you want to talk about the resources, you want to talk about housing, it's going to matter. It's going to matter at the state level about who represents inside of a very complicated state like North Carolina, who represents people and ideas. It's going to make a real difference. It's going to make a difference who the governor is. It's going to make a difference who the president of the United States is and who senators are. Of course, it really matters. And somehow you don't want to win an election and lose your very soul. So it's hard, right? This is hard work. It's not an easy path that we have chosen as an us. This little we the people thing is a big question. Who's the we? Who gets included in the we the people? And how do we think about each other? We spend a lot of time trying to help some voters know they don't have to do something, and other voters know that there's a group of people that want to encourage them to do something. And one of those things we want them to do is to know that they don't have to vote for Donald Trump if they're religious people. We have this little joke we like to say in our world where we say, we're not going to travel around and tell people not to like Donald Trump. That man's like a self-cleaning oven. He does all the work for you. If you watch him and pay attention and you haven't made up your mind already, there's nothing we can tell you. He does all the work for you. But also, as a human being and as somebody from the Christian tradition and a pastor, I will say that every person is a beloved child of God. In fact, as Jesus would say it, you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. That includes Donald Trump. Light of the world, salt of the earth. But not every light of the world should be the president of the United States, and that man needs to take his dim little light and move it on somewhere else and stop bothering the good people of this country. But he's still a beloved one. All of our political opponents, all of those who think differently than we are, we're all in this together, but not everybody should do everything. That's why we ask people to offer their services, to be county commissioners and be representatives, and to be senators and to be presidents, and to serve a role, because certain people can do certain things at certain times. That's what we're doing. We're not just using and them, we're just saying these people and these ideas need to have the influence right now. These are the ideas we want to follow. These are the people we want to be our leaders. So we find ourselves in this place. Tanya and I were sitting out in a group out there talking, and Tanya was saying about a particular person that she has the privilege of being the alternative to, saying, it's not, can I quote you? Saying, I don't just hate him, but the way he is with people. And it matters how we are. So this is really difficult work. So we're super glad you're here. So when we see candidates like this, Nancy and I met a year ago at that festival that I mentioned to you.
This is your fault.
Wait, she can tell you that story. We met in a tent, sweating in the middle of Union Grove at this spirituality festival. She was interested in talking about politics. Somebody had come maybe to her house and suggested that she offer her services as somebody to be in political office, and we hit it up. And a lot of this is sort of how maybe she ended up here and sort of how we ended up here. So it's sort of fun. But when Nancy offers up herself and says, I'll take a try at it. She's not just saying it for her. We have the privilege of talking to county commissioner candidates, state house candidates, state senate candidates, federal house candidates, senate candidates, presidential candidates. There's nothing in it for any of them. We talk about it all the time. All that it takes. It's an act of contribution and service. We call that in our world, they're candidates of common good. Now, they're going to be in a political party because we've chosen political parties as our way of organizing, and some of us feel really good about it. Some people are really frustrated by it, but we're going to organize around some political parties. We're going to get ourselves together, but our candidates care about more than the party. Our candidates care more about than just some of the ideas. They try to care about the common good and put that into practice. So that's what we're traveling around doing, and it's my privilege. Nancy, would you be willing to go first? Ben, are you wanting to go first?
I don't want to follow you.
Nancy, would you be willing to go first, and then Tanya, and then Ben? Or, well, you two can figure it out. Now, you all could introduce these candidates to us. You know them. You're here to hear them. We also know, and we set up cameras like this because we record this, and we're going to put this out on the internet. There's a lot of people who don't know it yet. We're also going to put it together for the press. We're going to put together little press pieces and let the press know that candidates are standing up and speaking up and offering themselves, and they're being supported in these ways, and people are in rooms like this and we're talking about it. So that's what we're doing. There's a movement afoot. After the candidates talk, Dan's going to serenade you again into some goodness, and then I'm going to come up here and invite you, and we're going to go out, and you're going to do a whole bunch of things around that bus. We're going to put these candidates in the bus, and we're going to go tour around a little bit. So there's a whole bunch of things sort of going on. But first you get to hear from them again. And I'll just say, every candidate I've ever known loves a chance to talk to the people that they're going to vote for, even if they've spoken to them before. Because this is really hard work, isn't it? It's really hard work. So Nancy, thank you for running. Would you give Nancy that big old round of... Okay, all right, Nancy, sorry. Okay, let's try this again. Picture your person that would walk up onto this stage. Just conjure them in your mind. If I were sitting there, I'd be like, okay, this is going to be like that time where I won the lottery, which happened to me, for seating at the Bruce Springsteen concert. And this was the stage, and this was me, And this was my hand playing Bruce Springsteen's guitar when he was on his knees in front of me with his Telecaster. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. That was a great day. We could talk about that one all night. You picture your person, somebody you're excited about, and then when I say, welcome Nancy, you're going to inject that energy that you would have if that person were in the room for Nancy. Okay, is that fair? All right. So would you tell Nancy you're glad she's here?
Can you hear me? Is that okay? Yeah. All right. I don't know, y'all. A-law, as my daddy would say. What are we gonna do? Preacher said this morning, he said, people don't care about how much you know. They want to know how much you care. And I'm looking at all y'all, and I know this is the caringest bunch of people in the whole world. And there's a whole bunch more of us. Ashe County is the most beautiful place in the world, and we have some of the most horrible problems in the world. You know, we have been visited with this opioid epidemic, the meth, you know, and everything, and we're hurting. We've lost 3 generations at the very least to opioids, to drugs, to substance misuse. And what we're doing with the money that we're getting, we're building a bigger sheriff's department. We're getting more equipment, more weapons of war to fight people who are ill. This has to change. It has to change now. We're running out of time. We've lost culture. You know, my daddy took me walking in the woods and told me what I could eat and what I could drink and what the spring lizards, you know, if there's a spring lizard, you could drink out of that branch. How many kids didn't get that from their daddies and their mamas and their grandparents because of substance misuse? Housing. We just so much that we have to fix. And the way we're going to fix it is by caring. We've got to get people, we've got people who've worked in these fields for 40 years. My friend Aurelia Sink Leonard, she's just precious, but she's worked up here at Northwest Housing Authority since 1973. Let me tell you, that woman knows housing in Ashe County inside and out. We get her and a whole bunch of other people that are close to the solution because they're close to the problem. And we get them together and we find solutions. We have to. Anyway, don't get burnt out. Haul people to the polls. Haul people here and haul people there. And we got to do this thing, y'all. Because who does Ashe County belong to?
Us.
Us. It's our Ashe County. It belongs to the addicts and the homeless and the people who are without fair wages. This is who Ashe County belongs to. It doesn't belong to the millionaires that are putting in second homes and third homes and buying up property, and it belongs to us. Who's Ashe County? Our Ashe County.
All right, conjure up that spirit again. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanya Rose.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, you know we're in trouble in this county. There's too many issues, too many problems that we see from housing, jobs, healthcare. As Nancy just mentioned, your opioid abuse. Those are things that have to be addressed now. We've put them off for far too long. We're looking at county commissioners that are now currently showing us that the people of this county don't matter to them.
Yes.
They're looking at a photo op or who can they help that will vote for them in the future, and not looking at everyone that needs something here. And recently I seen something about a year ago that really made sense to me. Y'all means all, not just the select few you want to help. We've got a large LGBTQ population here that's being either ignored, harassed, or even just downright discriminated against. We've got students in schools that don't have new textbooks because we're not buying them, because we want to focus on something else, like our $2 million football field we're getting. That's not important. Yes, we need things for our student athletes, but we need textbooks too. Our teachers need higher pay. We're losing teachers. We're hurting for things here. And those issues just aren't being addressed. So where do we turn to when we need those issues addressed? Generally, your county commissioners or your school board, but they're not listening. It's falling on deaf ears. If you don't fit into their little category of who they want you to be, your issue doesn't matter. And they will do anything to stop you from becoming an issue that they have to address because they want to be able to ignore it. I mean, case in point, look at me. They're trying so hard to stop me. But if you're not getting a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. It's just that simple. So we've got to fight, guys. We've got to push hard and really get these people out to vote. It doesn't matter, who they are or what they do for a living or their background. Get them to vote. Tell them how important it is. Show them that their votes matter just as much as anyone else's. And that if they don't vote, how can they complain about not having the needs that they need? So let's do it, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next representative from North Carolina's 93rd District,
Faith, hope, and love. That's the party that represents us. We're the party of faith. We have faith in tomorrow. We're the party of hope. We have hope for the future. And we're the party of love. Because we love our country, we love Ashe County, and we're going to make a difference. I just came from Wilkes County, and it was a rally in Wilkes County that was phenomenal. And it gave me faith, hope, and love in the Democratic Party. Because we have, Rachel Hunt was there, Mo Green was there, Wesley Harris was there, Chuck Hubbard was there. All these great, I am so excited to be a Democrat right now because we have got the best group of candidates running for the Council of State, for the state representatives. We got the best group that we've ever had. And the other party does not have the best group. So we have an opportunity to take back a lot of the seats that we have lost over the last few years. So we are the party that's going to address the issues of housing. We need to put some money in housing. Teachers need to be paid. We don't need to be 48th in the state. We need to be at least mid-level or above. Mo Green's going to make sure that happens. Rachel Hunt, y'all remember who her dad was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was the governor of education. You don't think that's a high priority for her? You are absolutely wrong. The other high priority we've got are the judges. We have got to elect Democratic judges for the Supreme Court and for the Court of Appeals because we have lost these judges over the last few years. So the only thing I can tell you is we need to vote Democrat up and down the ticket. And every one of them talked about, I can't do anything without the state legislature. We have got to break the supermajority. And how can you break the supermajority? That being said, I am so honored to run for the House of Representatives and to run for common good. We were at a listening session the other night, and a gentleman that I respect highly commented that he was glad to hear people actually care about the common good. They're not talking about what's in the self-interest of all the rich people in North Carolina, and they want to know what's in the common good for us. So it is my honor to take the pledge and be with you guys because y'all represent the good people that I want to represent and the good people that are right here in this room in Ashe County. Thank you.
tell you what. When we started off our little drive here, we had a lot on our mind, a lot of headlines and worries. But being with you all in this room has given me some faith, hope, and love as well. Just seeing your energy and your passion to change your communities for the better. I love it. Love to see it. Well, this is a song I wrote in the wake of the 2016 election. I grew up Christian. I grew up Republican. I didn't know you could be anything else. I didn't meet a Democrat until like high school, and it was my friend's dad, and it was like, you didn't be a Democrat, It's like being a leper in that time. I slowly started moving away because I realized that the Republican Party and the evangelical world that I was a part of looked less and less like Jesus. And the more I read Jesus, the more I read the Bible, the more I realized that the party and the platform and the Christian world that had raised me had missed the mark. And then Donald Trump was elected with 81% of the white evangelical vote. And that really threw me for a loop, and that's what this song is about. It's called Hymn for the 81%. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning and evening service. I knelt in tears at the foot of the rugged cross. You taught me every life is sacred, feed the hungry and clothe the naked. I learned from you the highest law is love. And I believed you when you said I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. And I assumed you'd do the same. So imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies, and I looked to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence, or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. See, your fear had turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. And you weaponized religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. And you said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Come home, come home. You're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home, come home. you're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Then come home, come home. Oh. Maybe I was too naive, or I just didn't want to see that there's always been a little poison in the well. Our churches sit on stolen land, a nation built by stolen hands, and we use the Bible to justify it all. Yeah, from slavery and segregation to mass deportations. This is who we are, but not who we have to be. There's a lot of work to do to pull up the evil by the roots, but repentance has to come before there's peace. You said to love the lost, I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? Be love, and justice roll down. Be love, and justice roll down. Be love, and justice roll down. May love overcome and justice roll down. Thank you so much.
That was good. That was good. In 2020, in January, we were starting to drive about the country. We're going to go to every state and invite people in every state to join in this movement. And we were traveling around in a bus with very similar branding that it has now. Didn't have the confronting Christian nationalism and resisting insurrections. We didn't know that was going to be a problem at the start of that year, as it turns out. And somewhere mid-January, late January, people of 2020, I got some messages from some friends who are like, hey, have you heard this song that's on YouTube? It's written by this guy, and they sent it. By the way, it's Dan that they were talking about, and that song that's on YouTube now has 718,000 views. And the one that you just heard, we're going to take this recording, it'll be on the internet, so if you're thinking, boy, I wish my friend was here, they would like that song a lot, you can share either this one or that with them. So people were sending this thing saying like, hey, have you heard this song? It sounds like what you guys are talking about. And I didn't know who Dan was. I knew some friends who kind of heard the song, and then somebody else said, maybe I know who that person is. So anyway, through a connection with a friend, find out who Dan is. Sent a text and then a phone call, I think, something like that, and said, hey, this is what we do. Dan was a worship leader at a church in Indiana at the time. And I said, hey, we're going to be in Minneapolis in a couple of weeks. Any chance you could join us? And Dan's like, yeah, sure, that'd be great, because that's sort of how he is. And that's kind of what we do when we travel around, actually. Like, we meet people and we're like, hey, you want to come with us? And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay. And then next thing you know, you're in North Carolina 4 or 5 years later, And Dan was like, yeah. And so he came into this one event, and then it went really great, and people in the room did what you did. And they've been doing that all over the country, actually. And then we said, how about another one? And then there was another one. Well, then a couple weeks later, Dan's video ends up being picked up by Fox News as the problem in the world, not the solution. That turns into a whole bunch of things, raises a bunch of awareness. Well, before you know it, Dan's fired from his church for that song. Now he's out of work. So then he's like, well, guess I could travel with you a little more if you wanted to. Don't have anything else to do. Sometimes opportunity and sometimes, lack of opportunity gives you a chance to do something you otherwise wouldn't do. And we couldn't be more glad, not that Dan was fired, but that Dan has a chance to travel with us. And so we travel about and we do this, and we try to find stories and great candidates and great musicians and people that tell a story, because the story we all want to tell is all over. We just have to keep finding storytellers. And we're so glad you're willing to be part of that work with us. We put a little note card on your seat there. That's for you to fill out if you want us to stay in touch. If you put your email on there, we'll email you. If you put your text on there, next time we're coming through, we would text you. We'll also text you, all the candidates and all. We're back in North Carolina if you wanted to keep up with us. That might be something you want to do. Or if you whipped up a great song that you want to play around the country and you want to travel with Dan, write that on there, like, want to get in the bus. So if that's something you're interested in doing, we'd love to have that information. We'd love to stay in touch with you. We'll also tell you about other candidates around the country. We have hundreds of candidates that we support, running for multiple levels of offices, because you might know somebody that lives in Indiana, or lives in California, or is over in Arkansas, or is in Oregon, and they want to meet somebody. And so we'll share with you in our email exchange. And if you get our email list, we're not the kind of group that's going to email you 3 times a week. Don't worry about that. We email 4 times a week. We actually really do. We really do. We do a roundup. We do a couple of candidate intros. We do 4 times a week. But they're really worth reading. Really, that you never have to hit the block on those emails. They're all worth it. We do stay in touch with you. If you give us your phone number, only when we're coming through would we stay in touch. And some people want to get on the bus with us. And we're going to want you on the bus with us, actually. Right after this, we're going to ask you to get on that bus. Now, some of you are just going to do it with your name. You're going to grab a Sharpie marker. You're going to write just your name. Some of you are going to write a little salutation because you like to write things. Some of you are going to draw a little fun picture. You're going to notice, if you haven't looked at the bus closely, that there's writings all over it. Some of them get worn off over time. New ones come on. It sort of comes and goes. It's a bit like half-permanent sand art. But we'd love to have you on the bus. Or maybe you want to climb in it and look around. We're going to put the candidates in, and we're going to take a little tour around. So we like to have all candidates in our bus. It gives us good juju and vibe in the bus. So we want them in the bus with us. So we're going to take a little tour, and then we're going to come back.
You are going to bring us back, aren't
We
you?
are going to bring it. Well, if you want to come back, yes. If you're like, hey, you're rolling to Cincinnati tonight, why don't you come with us? So you can put your name on the card. You can put your name on the bus. We'd love that. We'd also, frankly, we'd love to have you in the tank with us, as we like to say around Vote Common Good, because there are 4 things that get us around this country. You know 3 of them: faith, hope, love. You know what the 4th is?
Yes.
Diesel, that's right. Diesel gets us around the country. So we'd love you in the tank with us. You make a contribution of any kind to help us put some money in that gas tank, and we've got a shirt back there with a cute little guy on it and a bus that says, "I'm in the tank with Vote Common Good." There's also other little shirts over there that say "Faith, Hope, and Love, Supporting Democracy for All," and we sold out of a bunch of others at that festival. But there's stickers and buttons, and we'd love for you to put all that stuff together. Wear a candidate pin or sticker. You are faith, hope, and love, or in the tank, and you start to say, oh, it's not just these candidates. We're actually up to something in this county. We're up to something in this state. We're up to something in this country. There are some other movements and some things to be a part of. We're not fighting for the least best option. We're fighting for the best we can get. Best candidates, best policies, best organizations, for the best for all of us. For all of us. So we'd love to have you travel with us. If we just have to take your name and remember you that way, great. If we could take your email, if we could take a picture with you out in front of the bus right now, that's a real favorite of ours, to get a picture. I'll also say, if you want to put somebody else's name on the bus and then take a picture for them and send them and say, I know if you'd been here, you would have signed the bus. People love to do that kind of thing. If you have a friend that you know wouldn't be into this at all and you want to write their name on it and send them a picture, that's between you and your friend. We don't care. We don't know what those names mean, but that's a cute one to pull off on somebody. And then they're like, where's that bus? I got to get my name off that bus. We would love to have you feel like you're part of that. So if you want to keep that card, you can do that or drop it off with Tim back there. We'll go outside. But I'm going to tell you about this Love in Politics pledge. It just takes a minute to tell you about it. It's one of the things the candidates have agreed to. It's one of the things that we ask voters to agree to. There's a lot of definitions of love. If you're from the Christian tradition, you might like 1 Corinthians. It's not just a wedding passage. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not self-seeking. Love puts the benefits of others over oneself. Love isn't rude. There's some ways that we know what love is. No definition can define love. But you know when it's not there. So we ask voters to make this pledge. So we'd ask you to consider making this pledge, as these candidates have as candidates. There's 4 components to it. Number 1, I will call, as a voter, I will call on all elected leaders to comport themselves in ways consistent with love in their public and political lives. We don't think it's too much to ask people your political philosophy to care about what love would look like. You can build on it, but if you wouldn't mind having it, we think that would be great. Number two, that you will support elected officials when they do in word and encouragement, even if they're on the other political side. Let's just encourage more love. Let's have our elections be about who's loving best with these policies. Wouldn't that be great? What if it was a race to the top of love rather than to the bottom of the most basic needs we have? To hear great candidates have to talk about funding schools and teachers and treating people who have addictions that have been created by pharmaceutical greed, that we have to treat those people. Come on now. Number three, I will stand up and call for change from any elected official who doesn't comport themselves in a way of love. If it's the people we voted for and they come up short, we'll ask them to rise up. If it's people we didn't vote for, but they're in political party, we'll remind them that they have a basic call to love in their political lives. And if they can't live up to it, then maybe they don't need to be in office. And number four, that you will call on elected officials to demand that other elected officials comport themselves in a way of love. A little peer pressure among our elected officials would be a good thing. Yeah. Not, well, I wouldn't have written it that way. I wouldn't have said that. No, but could you say something to your colleagues about the way they could be? So asking people to comport themselves in a way of love, to encourage them when they do, to call them up to it when they fall short, and to ask other politicians to hold other politicians accountable. We think those are four pretty good things. So we'd love to have you in on that with us. And if you're into any of that stuff, give us your name if you want, give us your name on the bus, just give us a thumbs up or stand in a picture. Sound good? All right, you ready to head outside? All right, we tried to park this thing so it'd be in the shade, so we'll see how it goes. But you all know the heat better than we do. So we'll go out, we'll do this. If you want any of the stuff at the table there, you'll be able to come back in and pick that up. Tim will stay here for a bit while we're after we make a little drive with the candidates. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.